let's see what the let's see what Plaid feels like. Oh my God! Welcome to Freelancer Finance. I'm your host, Carlos, and this is my Model X Plaid. It is a 2022 Model X Plaid. It just got here a few days ago. This thing's a baby, has about 200 miles on it. I went black exterior with the cream interior, 22-inch turbine wheels. This is the maxed out Tesla that you can buy right now. 1,020 horsepower, obviously, 0 to 60, 2.5 seconds. We're going to test out and see if we can get that under that. There's plenty of channels out there that have great in-depth reviews of what this car can do. So what I wanted to do was do a less typical review and talk about some of the things that aren't inherently apparent when you first buy this car, and some of the things that I've noticed about the car after having it for a couple of days. Let's first talk about this yoke. This was like a bit controversial about whether or not this is safe or whether or not it's actually useful. After driving this thing for a few days, I have to say, initially, it's kind of weird. You're reaching for a wheel up here, and it definitely takes a couple of days to get used to it. But after a couple of days using it, honestly, I don't ever want to go back to driving a typical round wheel steering wheel. Why? Number one, let's just talk safety. If you have your hand up here in this top position, it's really not safe. If an airbag gets deployed, it could actually break your arm. So having your hands on the sides of the yoke forces you to drive in the recommended driving position of 10 and 2. Second of all, it's actually pretty convenient to have the turn signals here, and the Tesla has an option where once you set the turn signal, it will automatically shut off after you complete whatever move it is. So in my Model Y, if I signal to the left, if I just move the stick up a drop and I signal to the right, it'll flash 3 times, which is good when you want to change lanes. And then you click it all the way up to say exit a highway or to make like a right turn at a red light. In this car, you don't have to do that. If you signal to the right or the left, as soon as you make the move, whether it's changing a lane or making a right turn at a red light, the car will eliminate that. So you're not going to see a bunch of these Model X's driving around with their blinker on, like, oh, those days are gone. But in terms of comfort, I really do like the yoke. It feels much more like you're piloting it. It forces you to have a lower driving stance, so you feel like you're higher up. You feel like you have more control of it. And when you're going around a bunch of turns, this is definitely a lot more comfortable. And just feels a lot more fun. I mean, at the end of the day, Teslas are really fun to drive, but this really ups that factor. It just feels a lot of fun. It's super smooth. I have it set to comfort mode, so it's just super smooth. It forces you to have a lot of throw. Sport would be obviously a lot tighter, but I just find that for most driving applications, and honestly, even at high speed, the comfort is the way to go. It also makes it for easier left turns and right turns when you're palming the steering wheel like this. So in other words, like, that was the big complaint, is like people say, oh, it's hard to palm the steering wheel. You can easily palm this steering wheel. It's super easy. You get used to it after a while, and having these little grooves here are great because you just sort of use like one finger to go around. It's super easy. It does take some getting used to, but I would say make this steering wheel standard on all cars, or at least all Teslas, because it's just a lot more fun. And again, for that safety factor of having your hands at 10 and 2. Another cool thing about the car is it has an automatic door opener, but once you get into the car and you step on the brake pedal, door closes. That is a pretty cool, convenient feature. It's not something I saw, like a video Meet Kevin was talking about, that he was complaining that it didn't have that on the Model S. And I gotta say, it's actually pretty convenient. Sometimes you might have something in your hand, or just in general to not dirty up the outside. If you get in the car and you push the brake pedal, obviously you're ready to drive, the door should close. It just seems sort of obvious. And now that I have that, I find myself getting into other vehicles and feeling weird having to go and grab the door. It sounds so first world problem, but it's actually pretty convenient. The Tesla Model X has no visors. This piece of glass is absolutely incredible. The feeling of panorama is just incredible. I'm a guy that had a Jeep Wrangler for several years, for a long time, and it's actually one of my most favorite vehicles ever. I loved the open air feeling of it, taking the top down, and this car recreates as much of that as possible while still being inside. And then on top of that, obviously, all of the luxury features. This thing here being one interrupted sort of piece of glass really gives you good view. I've read some complaints that it does get a bit hot. I mean, yesterday in LA, it was like 105 degrees, and it definitely did get hot in here. And these sort of like hidden visor things, they are pretty cool. They're pretty cool, I'm not gonna lie, but are they really effective? Not really. I feel like it was cool that they added this, but it doesn't really help. It definitely does not act like a standard visor, because normally the top of the roof of the car is doing most of the work and the visors are just sort of extending that. But unless the sun happens to be in that perfect band, it's kind of useless. But again, I haven't really found it to be much of an issue. There's other cool things that the car does to personalize itself to you that I don't really hear too many people talking about, and it's not necessarily like a feature that Tesla is going to promote, but they're still really cool once you own it. The thing I was most impressed with was the suspension. I was really impressed with how much I can dial in the suspension. And Tesla recently released a software update that allows the car to see what's coming up on the road and automatically adjust the suspension. And I have to say, I was not prepared for how cool that felt. So you're driving up over the bump, and I'm going to grab some video of me driving over a couple of bumps that I've taken in the Model Y, and I noticed that the car will actually try to hop over it versus taking the bumps and sort of eating them as another car would, or even in the Model Y. It's almost as if as the car is approaching the bumps, it softens the suspension to allow the wheels to pop up, and softens the suspension in the back to allow the wheels to pop up as it goes over the bump. And the car is doing everything it can to stay level. It's really hard to explain in a video, but it's something that when you're driving it, you feel it. And even passengers that I haven't said anything to about it have noticed it. And I've had a lot of experience driving around this neighborhood in the Model Y, so I know what those bumps feel like. But an example is there's a bump that I can take in the Model Y at about 25 miles an hour. Anything faster than that, and I can feel the rear wheels come off the ground. This car, I'm able to take it at about 40. Some of that probably has to do with the weight. This car is 6,000 pounds, and so it's definitely going to just sit to the ground lower. But I was really impressed with how it just sort of ate those bumps, and the car remained level versus the Model Y, which would be a little bit more bouncy. Here's where you can set the suspension. I am now at my local Target. In order to get up the curb to come up here, I would want the suspension to be as high as possible to avoid any scraping. Well, that's super easy. I come into the car here, and I would set it to very high. Here's the ride height of the car, the damping settings for while I'm driving, and then the damping settings for handling. So the damping settings for ride comfort will be more with when you're hitting bumps on the road. The settings for handling are more when you're throwing the car into turns left and right. Does the car lean? What I notice is by keeping it here in ride comfort soft while the handling sport, what I notice is the car can take a lot of bumps and dampen those bumps, and it definitely feels nice, soft and squishy. But the moment you throw it into a hard turn, whatever side is opposite that turn stiffens up, and the car does not want to lean. And that's pretty cool. So now what I've done here at my local Target is set the ride height to very high. So now as I'm approaching this Target, my car is going to raise up to its maximum height, and then I can set auto raise at this location, and it will automatically raise the suspension and remember this setting. And so you can see now that the car is as raised up as it can possibly be. The car is usually not set at this height. So now if I come into the car and I change that to very low, there you go. So you can see the car is actually coming down, and it's lowering itself down into a certain stance. And then we can go inside and we can check and say, here it goes. There it goes. It's lowering down. Over here, the car's coming down. This is something that's very cool. Obviously, if you're racing the car, you want the car as low as possible to keep airflow above the vehicle. And so now it's set to very low. I'm going to change that setting back up to very high, and I will say auto raise at this location. And here you can see all of the statistics. We can see the suspension data. So you can see what's actually happening inside the car right now. There it goes. You can't hear it, or maybe you do hear it, but there's a slight like vibration as the compressor's going. And you can see it's now adjusting the ride height of the suspension. It's something that we all can theoretically understand, but when you're actually in it and you feel it, it really does add to the overall experience of luxury and justifies the price of this vehicle, as well as I'm assuming is going to really come in handy when we get this thing on the track and see what it can do. I think the record now that someone set for a Model X Plaid was 2.3 seconds. I'm going to do everything I can to get to 2.2 or 2.1 seconds as soon as I can get better acclimated with the vehicle on the track. Tesla has really hit the trifecta with this car. In other words, there's a couple of reasons why people buy cars. Number one would be like the luxury aspect. You want a car that's super luxurious as you're driving around. You might not be so concerned with gas mileage or other things, but you just want the car to be luxurious. This car easily checks that box. I opted for the cream interior. And you can see I got the captain seats, the 6-seater configuration. Another reason why people would buy a car is for the space. You have a large family and you need to haul people around or cargo. And again, this car checks that box. The interior back here is huge. Those two seats in the back will fold down, giving you about as much space as you have in a Model Y, except with these two captain's chairs. I gotta say, we also own a Model Y, and the space in here is unbelievable. And having this little space in the center, I thought would be dead space, but it actually is really nice for comfort and to hold larger boxes or parcels and things that you just want to keep on the floor. It also feels a lot more like an airplane interior with a flat bottom. Third would be performance. And as you can see here, I mean, I've been driving around in chill mode right now, but I can easily push that button and go to Plaid, and this car is an absolute monster. As a matter of fact, here's a reaction video of me the very first time that I experienced the Model X in Plaid mode at full acceleration. Holy, wow. They just came to my house and dropped off a 2022 Model X. Oh my God. That is so badass. Let's totally get in this thing. All right, so I'm just driving along doing 30 miles an hour, and it's pretty clear in front of me. So let's see what the let's see what Plaid feels like. Oh my God! I'm shaking right now. Like, I wasn't hamming it up. I wasn't exaggerating. I was like, I want to know what this feels like. It is insane. It's insane. It's insane. I cannot explain that. I don't think you'd ever get used to that. I really don't think you could ever get used to that. Like, I'm afraid. It actually makes me want to drive slow. The Tesla Model X Plaid. It's ridiculous. Like, I can't even find the words to describe how insane this is. This should not be legal. I'm really serious. Like, this is just, it's too much. This is just stupid. That's the word. It is just stupid. Like, you're driving along at like 30 miles an hour, and then you just floor the gas. Oh, and I cannot explain. You actually feel the car like pushing behind you, like you're in the car's way while I don't know. I've never felt any sort of acceleration like this, even on like the strongest roller coasters I've ever been. Like, this thing got me out of bed when it arrived. I was dead asleep and I saw this thing. There's almost like 3 levels to the gas pedal. Like, you're pushing it down and then you feel like normal acceleration. Then you like get to like midway or 3/4 and you feel like the acceleration that I feel in the Model Y, which is like, it's strong, but it still feels like an enhanced version of what you'd feel in an ICE vehicle. If you've ever driven an ICE vehicle, like a powerful one, like a muscle car or something like that, or even like a high-end Mercedes or something, there's a certain way that acceleration feels. But then when you go beyond that, like that, it's like you almost feel it in the accelerator. Like, it's like a click to go all the way down. You're almost feeling it trying to throw weight on the front tires. Like, and you feel it in your stomach. Like, it just, it like takes your soul out. It's like, man, I've got to get some videos of this thing from the outside. Like, oh my God, everyone should feel this. Like, everyone should know what this feels like. It is just, it is nasty. It just gives you that stank face. Like, anybody that knows, like anybody that's into like heavy metal knows when you hear like a sick beat down in a song, like, oh man, they come up or a crazy like tempo change, or they've been going fast for a while, then they suddenly drop it down and you get a bass drop. It's like, just gives you that stank face. That meshuggah, like, that's just nasty. Like, that's what it's just nasty. I love this car. When we first got the car, I was actually doing a Facetime with my partner at Freelancer Finance, Vitaly, and when I was testing it out, in front of him for the very first time, the left Gullwing door wouldn't open. I'm physically shaking. Like, after that first 1 or 2 runs of hitting Plaid, I'm just physically shaking. This is not normal. This is not, I'm telling you, this is just plain stupid how fast this thing is. What the hell? Elon is an absolute madman, like, for creating this machine. I mean, after you drive this thing, there is no other vehicle you can own after this. But what do you buy after this? After you felt that? I love my wife's Model Y. I love that car. I've been driving it every day. I love it. It's and I'm still not bored of it. But this is just something else, man.
And how much bigger is it than the Y?
It's actually not that much bigger than the Y, I would say.
Oh, really? I every time I see it, it looks like it's taller and maybe a little bit thicker.
It is. It's a little bit taller. It is a little bit taller, and it is a little bit thicker. I would say maybe 6 inches wider than the Model Y.
Mm-hmm.
No, actually, no. It's wider, man. It really is. And now that I'm standing behind it, I mean, look at the size of the tire. I mean, I got the performance tires, but look at it's big, dude. No, it's big.
Yeah,
It's
I
big.
think it's a heavy car. Yeah.
Oh, look at this. It's stopped. Interesting.
Oh, why did you do that? Because that's up?
I don't know. It's a good question. But they did say that there's an override if you feel that it's, but it says that there's sensors. Oh, it could have been me. It says to step out of the way when the door opens because otherwise it'll see you as an obstacle. Oh, look. Yeah, something's wrong with this door. Look. And as you can see here, my left gullwing door is reporting an obstacle. And as you can see by looking outside, there is no obstacle. So it turns out that the car was delivered and I have a bad sensor. I have to say that the experience with Tesla service has actually been amazing. I'm not saying I would have wanted to have this problem, but now that I did, it was a good opportunity to see what Tesla service is all about, especially on like a high-end vehicle. Are they giving you the support that you would expect when you pay this much for a vehicle, or are they just taking the money and moving on to the next one? I have to say that Tesla has been absolutely incredible in the communication and the response time dealing with this car. Using the Tesla app, I was able to upload photos and videos to the Tesla service team, and they were able to log into my car, look at I was able to give them a timestamp of the last time that I tried to open one of the gullwing doors, and they were able to look at the data from the car, and they were able to use that to give me suggestions about what to do, things that I was able to try out, and I will definitely keep you guys posted. I've service set for next week and I plan to record and document the entire process. But here's what happens when I try to open this door. You can see it's opening as close as it can to the actual vehicle, in which case I have to come in and manually override it. And then the door will open to its full extension. So this door, I would say, is probably my only complaint with the car so far. I was shocked that it happened. I was upset, of course, but the way that Tesla service has been handling it, I don't feel at all bad. Completely giving Tesla props for how they're handling it, and I fully expect that the problem will be handled. Here's how the door should open. That's more like it. All right. I plan to take this bad boy to the track in the next coming weeks. A couple of friends of mine have some Teslas, some performance Model Ys. We're going to really see what this car can do. And so hit like, hit subscribe if you already haven't. Join our Discord, where you will definitely want to be notified when those videos come up. Here's a road that I typically drive back when I'm driving back from Target. And you can see there's a bunch of indentations on the road, both for flooding and then some speed bumps on the road to keep people under a certain speed. And we're going to take a look at some of the suspension data as the car eats these bumps. So that was a dip. Here comes another dip after a stoplight, and let's see what the car feels like. So here we are. And let's take a look at what the suspension data is showing as we're taking those bumps. Now that felt a lot more comfortable. You can't feel that in a video, but here's a speed bump. And the car just stayed level. It did not lean up. The front nose did not come up, nor did the back come up. And you can see I'm taking that bump at 29 miles an hour. Let's take it at like a little faster. The car literally you can feel like the front suspension softens at the moment of impact, takes the bump, lets the car pass, and then stiffens up to catch itself as it comes down. It's something, again, that I can't really show in a video, but maybe with some of the data here you can see. So now we're just driving along straight. Here's going to be another dip. So we're coming up on a dip now. Let's see how it handles that. It just eats these bumps. It eats these bumps and tries to maximize itself for comfort, which is what I set it to, but it's really crazy to feel it in action. And you can see there's a bunch of Teslas in this area too. This might even be one. Yeah, here's a Model S. Hey, buddy. It's really, really comfortable. Again, this is something you just gotta have to feel, is the feeling of this yoke. You feel like you have much more control of the vehicle than you do with a regular steering wheel. It's super comfortable. Your hands are in a really comfortable position. Your elbows kind of naturally fall onto the rest here and the rest here. And so it's a really just comfortable ride, which is insane for a vehicle that'll do 0 to 60 in like under 3 seconds. There you go. You can see the warning. I don't know what this person is doing, but this is also something that I noticed. I don't know about you other guys in whatever, if you notice that you get messed with a lot by other cars that are just trying to force you to either drive slow or they cut you off a lot. This is something that I've noticed a little bit in the Model Y, but it's definitely worse in the Model X. And you can see right there, somebody in front of me with no one and nothing in front of them just decided to brake and force me to slow down. I don't know what that was all about. And so, yeah, it's crazy that that just happened live. See on their vehicle, it even says, if I'm driving too slow, at least I'm in front of you. What a jerk. What a jerk. That's clearly someone that has a problem. Like, there's people out there that have some serious problems. I don't understand what that's all about, honestly. Another set of bumps, 37 miles an hour, and it just skipped over it. It's really hard to explain, but it does feel like the car is skipping over it, a lot like the way that you would take it on a bike. No Model X video would be complete without at least some sort of test of the speed. So I think it's time to put this bad boy in plaid, let the battery condition for a couple of minutes, and just do a quick 0 to 60 run. Now, once you engage plaid mode, the feeling of power is instant. You immediately feel that you cannot press the accelerator pedal the way you were in either chill or sport mode. Otherwise, the car is just going to jump. I mean, it's you know, people have complained about it or said that it's really weird for low-speed driving. It's just something you have to get used to, that you need much less pedal travel in order to get the car moving. But otherwise, it operates as normal. As you can see, you know, here I am doing 22 miles an hour. 3, 2, 1. Oh, my God. It pulls so hard. Oh, my God.